Hey BookTube, welcome back. I'm Winx, and the ink I'm talking about today is sort of a comprehensive reading update. I'm going to do a hopefully quick wrap-up on the books that I've read over the past month or so. I'm also going to let you know what I'm reading right now in these last few days of the month, and then finally I will go over my August TBR. So, starting with the wrap-up, conveniently, all of the books that I've read in the last few weeks have been by the same author, so that makes things a lot easier. I have been on a major R.A. Salvatore reading spree, and if you're not familiar with R.A. Salvatore, he is a fantasy writer. He writes high fantasy, and most of his books, if not all, I'm not familiar with any books he's written that are outside of this, but they could be out there. Most of them are in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, so that is super awesome. I've been majorly into D&D because I have finally found a group and I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons, and it's awesome. We had our very first day of playing last weekend, and you all know several members of the group. There is Frankie from Frankie Reads, my girlfriend Jess, Adrian, who is my co-host on the Marshmallow and Mimosa podcast, and then we are being led by Ann Kucharski from Bookstagram and Bookish Twitter and such, and 3 of her friends are also joining in, so it's a pretty big party, and it's, yeah, it was so much fun last weekend. I cannot wait until we play again. It's going to be great. And in the meantime, there's a ton of R.A. Salvatore books out there, because that's sort of the other thing. R.A. Salvatore, I'm learning, is something like the Robin Hobb of Dungeons and Dragons books, where he has this set of characters, this ongoing storyline, all set within the same world, and it's just broken up into like a bajillion trilogies. I don't even know how many books are in this ongoing story of Drizzt Do'Urden. I know at least like 12, I think more though, I don't know. In any case, I started at the beginning with the Dark Elf Trilogy, and I was working on this one in my last update, I believe. So this trilogy is comprised of Homeland, Exile, and Sojourn, and they're all following the story of Drizzt Do'Urden. Drizzt is a drow elf, which is a dark elf, and if you're not very familiar with Dungeons and Dragons races, the drow are more evilly inclined. They're not very kind. The city that the drow live in just sounds horrible. The politics are gruesome. The just culture is gruesome. Everything is it's just about killing people. That's all. And they worship a evil spider queen deity, and yeah, it's pretty spooky, the drow elf world. But Drizzt is a different sort of drow. He sees the errors in the ways of his people. He doesn't want to be a part of it, but he's really conflicted because the male drow do not have much power or privilege or rights in their society. So he's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I feel like that's sort of a pun. Unintentional, but I mean, they all live underground in the Underdark, so there's rocks everywhere. It's not a good joke. But yeah, Drizzt is, he's having a hard time, and he's trying to reconcile his feelings with his people. He doesn't even know what he would do if he left his people. It's a really hard time. So we go through his childhood and him realizing all of this in Homeland. In Exile, he has been exiled. He's exiled himself. He is wandering the Underdark regions. There's a bunch of monsters and it's really scary, but he's super good at fighting, so he's able to stay alive, but he's also sort of losing himself in the process and has to deal with that. And then Sojourn is him journeying up to the surface and coming out to where all of the other races live, like humans and elves and halflings and such, and just trying to figure out how a drow, which everyone is afraid of and everyone just assumes that he can be up to no good because he's a drow, how can he find a home for himself and find a place in this world that will accept him and let him just be peaceful and happy. So I loved this trilogy. I thought that it was really well written. I loved the character of Drizzt. I loved exploring a little bit more deeply into some of the races and world of Dungeons and Dragons, and yeah, I really enjoyed this trilogy. So I believe I gave all of these books 5 stars. If I might have given some 4 stars, but I'm pretty sure they were all 5-star for me. The next trilogy in the story of Drizzt is Icewind Dale, and I don't have a physical copy of these books. The first in this trilogy is The Crystal Shard, which I have also finished. This one I gave 3 stars, but I'm already questioning my rating a little bit. I know star ratings are a little bit meaningless anyway because everyone has their own system, but I have done this before where I will read a first trilogy and I love some aspect of it that isn't in the next trilogy, but I expect it to be. I also do this sometimes with, when I'm reading one trilogy, I'll read the first book and I expect that the second book will have the same characters, and then if they don't, I'm really disappointed and I can't enjoy that second book just because I went into it with these expectations, which obviously that's my fault and the author should not get like a cruddy review because I had some weird expectation about that. Anyway, I loved how the first trilogy focused just on Drizzt. It wasn't first person, but it was his story and it was all about him and his development, and we saw some other things that were going on outside of where he was, but it was really just about Drizzt. Icewind Dale has sort of expanded the view a bit. So Drizzt has now found himself amongst other people. He has started to develop relationships and he's trying to figure out how to prove to these other people that not all drow are evil, and he's actually just trying to be nice and peaceful and live amongst them. And he's developing his own friendships and stuff and just figuring out what it's like to live in a community, and that's all really great. I think the reason I felt a bit disappointed is that I would have really liked to see more of Drizzt's feelings, more of like what was going on internally as he was making these relationships, and we get some of that, but the view is just really spread out amongst these other characters. So I didn't care for that quite as much. Though I will say that by the end, I had grown attached to the other characters, so this is why I'm already questioning that rating. I think perhaps if I hadn't gone in with these expectations, it would have been more of a 4-star read for me, but yeah, that's where I am. So those are actually all of the books that I finished. Currently, I'm reading the second book in the Icewind Dale trilogy, which is called Streams of Silver, and in this one, Drizzt has found himself on a quest with several of the people that he's met in the first book. And I've actually been enjoying this one even more than the first book. There's something just really satisfying to me in this quest and the interactions that are happening, and yeah, so far I'm really enjoying it. I do have a few chapters left, but I think I might actually finish it tonight, so we'll see how things wrap up. But I am excited to finish that one, and I do plan on going into the final book very soon. But before I move on to that and my August TBR, I am also currently reading a sci-fi book. I'm not going to tell you exactly what this is because it is a possible Book Bath Box pick. I'm really enjoying it so far. It seems like just sort of a light, like time-bending space adventure with cool alien races, and yeah, there's sort of a mystery going on because of the time travel, so you're trying to like piece it together and see what actually like what order things actually happened in, since they can jump around time. Yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot, so we'll see how that goes, and perhaps you'll be seeing it in a Book Bath Box soon. Yeah, okay. So as for what I plan to read in the month of August, I have several books picked out here, and sort of per usual, I've probably picked more than I have time to read, but we'll see what I actually get to. So to start, I have the third book in that Icewind Dale trilogy, and that one is called The Halfling's Gem. The point I'm at in the second book already has a lot of threads coming together, so I'm pretty curious to see the result of that in this final book in the trilogy. And there's some super dramatic things happening right where I'm at in the book. but I feel like it's going to be okay considering there's like 15 books at least in this storyline. That gives me a little bit less anxiety about what's happening. Anyway, after I finish that trilogy, I have 2 graphic novels that I want to get to, and this is volumes 4 and 5 of Jim and the Holograms. So I am a little bit behind. I've been meaning to read volume 4 for quite a while, and I had pre-ordered volume 5 and then that came in. So now I have quite a bit to catch up on, but I feel like it will make for a very nice relaxing weekend afternoon to just read through a couple Jim and the Holograms volumes. If you have not heard me talk about this, I absolutely adore this graphic novel series. It's based on the 80s cartoon of Jim and the Holograms, but it has been brought into the modern day, and it's like they took all of the elements that I loved about the show and that I remember loving about the show, left behind the things that I probably would be like sad or offended about now, that I don't really remember, added in new flavor for this modern day, and it's just an amazing result. I love it, and I'm very excited to continue on and see what happens. Next, I have a book that is not in my usual genres, but I do actually like reading classics here and there, and I have here The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I went on a recent spree where I picked up a few classics that I have read and really liked, but I also picked up this book, which I have never read, oddly enough, but I've always meant to read it, and I really enjoyed this particular edition. It's a really pretty cover. It's apparently the 50th anniversary edition. But yeah, so I really want to get to this one, and I'm feeling into it. The next book on my August TBR is Off to Be the Wizard by Scott Meyer. This book has caught my eye on several occasions because of the cover. It's got this kind of cute looking pixel art cover, and I'm just really attracted to pixel art, so that definitely drew me in. The basic story, I've actually started this one, but I've only read a teeny bit, so I'm probably gonna just start it fresh and pick back up for the month. But the basic idea is there is this kid, he's kind of a hacker, and he hacks into some like government website and discovers this giant file where he sees there's all of this data on everyone. He finds his record and he sees that there's sort of weird facts like your height, and by going in and changing it, he realizes that he actually changes height. So he starts to realize that this file like controls reality, and he's able to travel locations, he's able to travel in time, and there's just all kinds of stuff going on. Through some series of events, he apparently ends up in King Arthur's court, and that's about all I know, is that he just travels into the Middle Ages through the use of this file, and I think he has it like on his phone, and he has his phone on his person when he has traveled, so he can still like sort of control reality and like appears to be a wizard to the people of the Middle Ages. It sounds interesting. So yeah, I don't know, I kind of wanted to finally give this one a chance since I've been attracted to the cover so many times. The little bit that I read, I did find the main character a bit annoying, but like I said, I only read a little bit, so I'm willing to give Martin Banks another chance. And the final book on my August TBR is another one that is possibly for Book Bath Box, so I won't tell you exactly what it is, but I'm pretty excited about this one. It's sort of the best vague way I can describe it is that it's sort of like a noir Harry Dresden book from what I've seen. So I'm curious, and I think it could be pretty fun. So I will hopefully get to that one, and again, maybe it will be in a future box, or else I will just tell you about it because I decided it's not going to be in a box. Alright, so that wraps up my giant comprehensive reading update. I would love to hear what you all have been reading. It's been forever since I made a video. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of the books that I mentioned and what you think about them, or if you have any exciting books that you're working on now or plan to read in August. Anything, everything, let's chat about it down below. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Also keep an eye out because I have another video coming out really soon about some exciting giveaways. So yeah, just pro tip. All right, I hope you all are having a wonderful start to the weekend and I will talk to you soon. Bye!